Well, the protest or the demonstration outside the gates of lawmakers here in Parliament in Cape Town concluded just over an hour ago. However, we saw dozens of activists, residents and various groups, pro-Palestine groups, outside demonstrating, calling for more tangible action from the South African government. I'm now joined by Jamie, who is from the South African Jews for a Free Palestine. Jamie, we saw the dozens of demonstrators outside Parliament. Do you believe that this protest action achieved what it intended?
Well, this is one of many protests that are happening around the country. We think right now that's very hard to get the Israeli state or our government to act decisively, but we will keep on mobilizing until we achieve our ultimate objectives, which is for all South Africans and captives illegally captured by Israel to be released, and for the South African government to put sanctions on all coal sales to Israel.
Jamie, it was quite interesting to arrive here and see a banner that says "Free Mandela Again."
Look, the irony is not lost on us. It seems what apartheid states do is kidnap Mandelas. And so we will call for a release of Mandela and all the captives. But as I say, the irony is not lost. Israel, just as South Africa apartheid has done, has violated all forms of human rights and international law. But it did feel quite unsettling having to say "Free Mandela" once again.
I mean, how important is it also to name these activists that were on the flotillas?
I think it's incredibly important. You know, Israel has killed without impunity, so putting a name to people's faces prevents that. But I think what our goal also should be is, right now there are tens of thousands of Palestinians detained in Israeli detention illegally, and we don't know their names. There have been tens of thousands of Palestinians in Gaza who have been slaughtered wantonly, and we can't name them, but they are as real as they have families, they're as much people as Mandela and all the others. And it's a tragedy that these are just numbers now, and they haven't been named.
And we were here on Saturday. You were part of that march that saw hundreds of Cape Townians and organizations march to Parliament to hand over a memorandum of demands. Demands that are not entirely new to the South African government, taking into account that in 2023 there was an EFF-sponsored motion regarding the Israel embassy. What do you make out of government's action, taking into account also the calls that you were making today for South African government?
I think the South African government on an international stage has done a great job taking the genocide case at the ICJ. However, we think their actions have been quite duplicitous, because right now South Africa is one of the largest coal exporters to Israel, which means South Africa is literally fueling the genocide. Despite the parliamentary motion, the Israeli embassy still operates in this country. So we are calling the South African government to put their money where their mouth is. And if they actually oppose this genocide, stop fueling it, stop sending coal, boycotts, divestment, sanctions, quite simply.
Why is these protests, pro-Palestine protests, important? And why we're seeing such a growing number of people participating in them, especially if you look in the last 2 years, the intensity and the growth of these protests?
I think as South Africans with our country's history, we recognize the importance of international solidarity, and all those who have power have done nothing to prevent this genocide and man-made famine that is happening in Gaza and the apartheid that is happening in the West Bank. So as ordinary citizens in South Africa, we view it as our moral imperative and our duty to mobilize in international solidarity to hold accountability for the apartheid state.
And if you had an opportunity to speak to the president right now, I mean, he's obviously condemned the actions and the interception of the flotillas. But if you had an opportunity to speak to the president, seeing that you're calling for more tangible action, what would you say to him?
I'd say put your money where your mouth is. Words are easy. It's very easy to condemn something. What actually takes courage, what a true leader would do, would to be materially stop supporting this genocide. And the most direct way you could do that is to put sanctions on all coal exports to Israel. Sanctions, please, Mr. President.
Thank you so much. That is Jamie there, one of the demonstrators that was here outside Parliament protesting, forming part of the bigger call from Cape Town and South Africa regarding what has recently transpired. We do understand that there will be several other demonstrations and protests throughout the city today, later on today and tomorrow in Boerkap, and also in Krombom Road, or Krombom Bridge rather, where more Capetonians will be forming part in adding their voice in calling on the South African government to, as we heard from Jamie, put their money where their mouth is, and that is to have more tangible action and not just to condemn what has recently happened, the arrest of Mandla Mandela and many other South African activists that were on the Global Sumud Flotilla heading to Gaza with aid to provide to those that are currently destitute.